Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I'm a labor and delivery nurse by day and I love to read. I've been doing a November TBR challenge on Instagram, so feel free to follow that there. I just did a little it shows me choosing books and a little snippet about each one after I read them. So some of these books, if you've been following that, it will be a little bit redundant. Gun to the head, I would have told you that I read 5 books this month, and I was just pleasantly surprised to count and see that I had read 13. So I think I have 8 more to go for my Goodreads reading challenge for how many I selected I was going to read, which would be 200. So I do feel like with the holidays coming up, 9 books still seems like plenty to read. So I'm not going to try to raise my reading challenge or anything. There's one book that I'm reading that is super long, lengthy. Honestly, it might take me all month to read it, and then I'm trying to read other things as well. Okay, so November. I had wrapped up all my physical books and was pulling out of a jar to see which ones I get. I still have 10 books that I haven't read yet, so I will probably be continuing that in December. And so I started the month by reading Between Two Kingdoms. Is a book that I read with the Sharon Says So book club. So Sharon McMahon is America's government teacher. I follow her on Instagram. She runs a very large book club. And so we normally read 2 or 3 books each semester, and then we meet up with the author on Zoom and they kind of explain their book. She asks them questions. So the author meetup for that is tonight, December 1st. And so it's always interesting to hear more from the author. So this was a memoir. Suleika was 22, 23 years old when she was diagnosed with cancer. It follows her cancer battle. I believe it was 4 years, which is just such a long time, especially in that, when you're supposed to be out in the world, kind of finding yourself as an adult, and you're just kind of stunted by cancer. So then this book explores not only her cancer journey and her support system, but also what it looks like to re-enter the world after something like this, and how you're forever changed, but you're also just trying to get back to regular life. So this was a very interesting memoir. So she ends up going on a road trip after to kind of see the people that supported her throughout and wrote her letters. I'm not gonna say anymore. I don't love to read a memoir. This was well written. It was a page turner. So if you love a memoir, it's a great one. And then I read The Red Tent. No, I've never read this one before. I think part of it is that I went to a Christian school, and so The Red Tent was not something that, there's a lot of pagan worship in here, and so I can see why my school would have been a little worried about that because, you know. Anywho, I found this to be incredibly interesting, informative, and it felt like it rounded out the story of Jacob and his 12 sons, and then Dinah? I think it's Dinah. His one daughter. So in the Bible story, Dinah is raped by someone, and her brothers annihilate the town in a really horrifically graphic way. And so they seem like they're heroes in the Bible, and in this book she is married to the man, and her brothers don't like that it happened without their father's consent, and so they perform all this murder, and then there's just so many repercussions throughout time. I found this to be very interesting, especially all of the women, the historical information about the women, the Red Tent, coming of age, having children, just Jacob and his 2 wives and their maidservants who he had children with as well. I just intriguing, fast moving. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. Then I read another Emily Wilde book. So I think this is the 3rd. Yeah. Emily's Compendium of Lost Tales. So Emily Wilde is a professor of, I don't know, like mythology or something. She is incredibly like matter of fact, and she ends up falling in love with a fairy. So we're now in part 3 of the story. So Emily and Wendell are taking back his throne in Fairy, and she's compiling all sorts of lost tales to try to find out how she can relieve this curse that was placed on the land by the queen that took over Wendell's throne that they got back from her. So it was fine. I feel like I wasn't in the mood for it. I wasn't paying attention to it well, and I think I might just be done with this story. So I gave it 3 stars. If you like cozy fantasy, you might absolutely love it. It's just not my jam anymore. Then I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I love V.E. Schwab. So for children and junior fiction, she writes under Victoria Schwab. For adults, V.E. Schwab. Her latest was Bury My Bones in the Midnight Soil. Loved it. You might know The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Those are kind of her most popular ones. And I love Darker Shade of Magic series. So that's V.E. Schwab. This is a duology, which I did read both books this month because I love this one so much. I read Vengeful right after, which, let me see if I can find that cover real quick. So very aesthetically pleasing covers. I own Vicious the copy, and then I listened to Vengeful because, oh look, like 2 triangles. That's cool. Never tied that together. So our main characters are Victor and Eli. They are in med school, and they hypothesize that if you have a traumatic event where you clinically die and come back, depending on like what you wish for, you come back with superpowers. So I forget what Eli wishes for, but he comes back with like the inability to die. So like his body can like be harmed like crazy, and he just regenerates. Victor wanted the pain to stop, and so he has the ability to stop other people's pain and to inflict pain on other people. And then another character, she wanted a second chance. So she has the ability to like raise people from the dead, which is very interesting. So it's very interesting in the 2 books how every time we meet a character, we kind of like learn the thing that they wanted the most in their last moments and how that plays out in their extraordinary abilities. So they're called EOs. So something awful happens in the midst of these people trying to like basically commit suicide and come back. And so Victor is just trying to like live his life. He loves EOs, and Eli has this weird like complex that EOs are evil, and he as like a creator is meant, sorry, my bangs are in my freaking eyeball. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know. So Eli has this weird like creator complex. He was raised by a super religious man who abused him. And so he feels like because he brought this about, now he also needs to just murder EOs. So these 2 are like fighting each other against each other for both books. And so yeah, both books are kind of play out the battle between them. Law enforcement is involved, more people get involved, and so like what's the right thing, who's the most evil, who's the most powerful, how do you take down people who basically can't die. So I gave Vicious 4.5 stars. I loved it so much. It also read so fast and kind of flipped back and forth between time periods. Vengeful, I gave 4 stars to. I also really liked it. It just wasn't as like page turning as Vicious, and it kind of felt like it needed to end. So I think that she had originally planned it to be 3 books, but I think she just like realized that the story was done. So good for her for realizing it's done. My next audiobook was Under Lock and Key. So I've read other books by Lana Ferguson. I think Mate, Perfect Mate, I think was one about like werewolves. Under Lock and Key is about the Loch Ness Monster. So set in Scotland. Lana Ferguson loves her like monster romance. So Key her father dies and she goes to Scotland to be reunited with her family. She has no idea why her father left or kind of what happened. And then Locke ends up being kind of like this like enemy, frenemy, but they also like just want to do each other. And this is a spicy book. And she finds out that he's a Loch Ness monster and they're trying to like undo his curse. So she finds out her family's role in it, his family's role in it, and they're also like fighting their attraction and falling in love at the same time. I thought it was fun. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It was pretty good. I wasn't expecting that much out of it, so it met my expectations. My next book in my November physical TBR was Redeeming Six. This is the 4th book in the Boys of Tommen. So this is the kind of wrap up of Joey's story, even though he will be a character in further series or further book installments. And so in book 1 and 2, we get the story of his sister and her like boyfriend. In 3 and 4, we get the story of Joey and Aoife and Joey's. So it overlaps a lot with the first 2 books. It's really interesting because they overlap quite a bit, but you don't, like, every book will still give you more new information. And even this book, you could feel it placing kind of like hints for future books, which just gets you more excited for next installments. Okay, there's one hair right here that needs to go under something over here. I don't know, guys. It looks bad. It's doing crazy things. Okay. The bangs are either so cute or so awful, and there's no in between. And I'm so sorry, but I am unable to speak when there's a bang in my eyeball. And I don't know how sometimes they avoid the eyeball and sometimes they're just in the eyeball. Okay. So we've got a lot of overlap. We've got a lot of like foreshadowing. These are spicy. They are like check trigger warnings. There's domestic abuse. There's violence. There's a lot of drug use. But we get kind of the wrap up of Joey's story. And then we're going to move on to another character in the next book, which I'm so excited for. So I gave that one 4.5 stars. I feel like I always take a 1/2 star off because it just feels like it's a little too long. Like it's almost a perfect story, but it just drags a little. So maybe at one point, one of her books I'll read and it will be perfect. But I certainly will not be stopping reading that series. I love it a lot. I've had this book on hold like since it came out. So With a Vengeance by Riley Sager, and I was disappointed. It was fine, but it feels like it's been done before. So I gave it 3 stars. So Anna lures a bunch of people that are connected to her past and her family's downfall onto a train. And she like makes it so that they don't realize that they're going to be the only ones on it, and then makes it so they are the only ones on it. She's trying to bring them to justice, but on the way, people start dying. So they're trying to figure out like what they all had to do with it, why these people are being targeted, who's actually doing it, because they think they're the only people on the train. So she's kind of being framed for it. And then we find out at the end who's doing all of it. It didn't feel that shocking. I'm sorry. I'm just not the biggest thriller mystery person anyway, and it just feels like it's been done. I'm so sorry. Then I read Penitence. This was my book of the month, February of 2025. It took me a while to read it because I hadn't heard anything else since I selected it. It is a beautiful cover, and I thought Penitence, I don't know, it intrigued me. The premise of this book is amazing, and it feels like it should be amazing, and it was not. It was a disappointment. So our main character, I would say Angie's the main character. Angie and her boyfriend, when they were teenagers, they made some bad decisions, and they were responsible for her sister dying in a skiing accident. There was like a weird cover-up. They were like split up, but they kept dating secretly behind their family's back. Big falling out, all sorts of things. Well, Angie's son with her husband David has Huntington's disease, and her daughter allegedly shoots him and murders him. And they're like 13 and 14. So that's how we start. And then she gets her ex-boyfriend to represent her daughter during this murder case. It feels like that's a pretty good premise. Like, this should be pretty juicy. We should learn some things about this murder. There should be more secrets. There was not. I don't know how they made it boring, but they did. This book took me like 10 plus days to read because I just did not want to pick it up again. It's not even that long. I'm giving it 2 stars. It was very disappointing. I'm so sorry to myself. I'm sorry to myself. I was very disappointed. And it felt like a waste of time. And it feels like there's so many other books I would like to read While I was reading Penitence, I needed another book to stimulate me to want to read. So I kind of did like a chapter at a time just to keep it going. I probably should have just DNF'd it. But I read Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is one of her newer ones, I think. She's far too prolific for me to keep up. But this is a twist on a Snow White retelling. So our main character is Anya. She is a healer, but specifically antidotes. So she's like obsessed with poisons and wants to find their antidotes. And so the king finds her and is like, hey, I think something's wrong with Snow. She's been like really lethargic. She vomits a lot. Like it feels like she's dying. And he's recently lost his wife to, like, he murdered his wife because she was killing their other daughter. That daughter is passed. Like, lots of things bad happening in this kingdom. So Anya very reluctantly agrees to come and just kind of like watch this princess and see if she can see anything. Well, she doesn't really see anything. So she has no idea what happens. Well, then she eats this like silvery apple and she vomits a lot from it. So she's like, okay, well, maybe this is what it is. Like, this is the apple. And then she steps into a mirror. So by eating this apple, Anya is able to get into the shadow world that's in mirrors. And then we find out what happened to the queen, to the other princess, what's happening to Snow, who's involved in what, and kind of like the world itself is very interesting. So I gave that one 4.5 stars. It was great. It was a good retelling because I feel like Snow White's not my favorite because there's just not that much like nuance to it, and not very many people retell Snow White, but it was good. I really liked it. The mirror world was interesting. Then I read By a Thread by Lucy Score. So I liked the Knock 'Em Out series. Lucy Score is like I like them, I don't love them book normally. And that's partially because she's a wordy bitch. So this is 500 pages. And it was about 250 pages in before we got smutty. And what are we reading this romance for, if not for a little smut? So this is a workplace romance. So our main character, Dominic, is just truly grumpy, and he fires a sassy waitress at a pizza shop. His mom then hires her for her fashion magazine and kind of has her like spy on the company to see like what's going on. And Dominic and Allie, there's like company policy. There's the fact that they think they hate each other, but they also just like can't stay away from each other. And then they each have a lot of things going on personally. So you're dealing with all of those things as they're trying not to fall in love. There is some spice. It was pretty good. So I think I gave this a 4. Yeah, I gave it a 4. It was really nice after Penitence, honestly. Like, just nice little palate cleanser. It moved quickly. Then I listened to Lights Out. So this is one that I've seen all over the interwebs. Especially if you like, what's the something in Lark? The serial killer ones. So Lights Out, our main character, another Allie. Allie is a trauma nurse. And she has this like dark fantasy about masks and like, so a mask kink. So she follows this guy on Instagram that it does all these like thirst traps and like covers himself with blood and wears a mask. Well, he breaks into her house and like films a video at her house. And so she's like super turned on by it, but also like our are you trying to kill me? And then she has to find out his identity. She's pretty sure she knows who he is. And so all of that is going on while she's actually in danger from someone because of an incident at work. And then they ended up, her and the masked man end up accidentally murdering someone. And they have to cover it up. The mob gets involved. This was fine. So I gave it 3 stars. I feel like it did exactly what it wanted to do. It was entertaining, got a little bit long. And I don't feel like I need to read the next book, but I don't like really regret reading it. I do really enjoy the cover art. I think the next one is Caught Up. I will not be reading it, but if you like dark romance and have like a mask kink, this might be for you. It might be. I don't love dubious consent. I am pretty much a fan of enthusiastic consent. So this one does feel like they were consenting, but it's a little gray. Then I read A Curious Beginning by Deanna Rayburn. This is my last book of the month. I finished this on the 30th. This was truly a delight. And I've had it on my TBR for such a long time. I think this has quite a few books in the series. I will be continuing the series because it was so good. This felt like Flavia de Luce, an Alan Bradley character, grew up and likes to have sex. That's what it feels like. So, I don't feel like there actually is any spice in here, but there's a lot of innuendo. There's like, I feel like we're going there in the future books. Our main character is Veronica Speedwell for The Plant. Which I didn't know that was a plant. So her last aunt dies, and then people keep insisting that she's in danger and trying to protect her. And she just kind of goes along with it because she's like, well, I got no money, so free lodging, I'm going to go with that. She's just very like practical, but also like not afraid of anything and like boss. She's a girl boss. This is like in the 1890s, and she just like travels and has affairs abroad. She can't sleep with an Englishman because it's too close to home. I think I love her. So she finds out a secret about herself that explains why people are after her. And I feel like it's going to create content for a while to go as well. So I gave this one 5 stars. It was just a delight. Yeah, I liked the banter between her and Stoker. Stoker has a lot of a backstory too, that we get like pieces of it. So I feel like Veronica has a lot of backstory, Stoker has a lot of backstory that we could still explore. They have a lot of sexual tension that we could definitely explore. And they're big fans of like natural history, and so they're like trying to preserve like an elephant hide during the whole thing. So it sounds like they're gonna do some sort of like a natural history museum, and I feel like if they're going to have to like accumulate artifacts, then they'll go on adventures. So that's how I see the series moving, and I feel like I'm along for the ride. The audiobook was really good too, so the reader was great. I liked it. So those are my books. I have to look again and see like what my favorite for November would be. And then we have 1 month left of 2025. And then I will get on here and give you a full, like, my best books of 2025. We'll see how I did on the end of year TBR. And also kind of see what's the plan for 2026. Here we go. Here comes December. Bye.